And we're live with the Metal app. This week I have Mike joining me. Unfortunately, Jordan was not able to join us this week. Either that or he'll be joining us late. Hopefully not too late. Let's get right into it this week with previews. Mike, last week we did a whole bunch of previews leading up to everything before Black Adam and Dr. Sivana. So if you want to do me a favor and pull those up, we're getting all professional now.
Sure thing. Here we go.
Yeah. Now,
Share screen.
now I gotta do my part here. Pull it up. There we go. Okay. So we have 6 new previews to get through. Starting, of course, with the 2 from last week. So we have Dr. Sivana. One of your lower-end type guys, if you look at him at face value, his stats are, he's got 7 movement, 10 attack with the Psychic Blast, he's got stealth, 3 damage with a special power, which is Outwit, and when he can activate Outwit with a power action. When he does, the countered power ability is also countered on all opposing characters within 8 squares of him. Now, that's kind of neat. If you have a opponent who's using a power a lot, now it doesn't happen that often in a lot of teams, but if you see a lot of Pulse Wave coming your way, that could have a major effect on it. He's got a trait, friendly characters of the Secret Society's supervillains keyword, ignore the Mystics team ability, which I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to a lot of the previews on the set. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of characters.
They're teasing us.
Yeah, that have Mystics. So you're gonna see this actually, especially in sealed. His ability is going to come into a lot of effect. And across the dial, he's not the greatest high-end stats. He is a wild card, which is always useful, especially if you can actually make an effective team with enough team abilities. So it doesn't necessarily have to be part of a theme team, but there are a lot of characters in Secret Society supervillains now in this set, and some previous sets that are really solid that will work well with him. Mike, you want to share your thoughts?
Well, I look at the damage power, and it looks really good at first glance, but I look at the 8 squares, and I think he has to be really, really close to a lot of the opposing force, and he's only an 83-point character with 16 defense, so unless you're bolstering him, that seems more like a last-ditch effort to try and save yourself, to me. Anyway, that's just my initial response to the damage ability. I do like the fact that he is a wild card, always very useful. Fearsome 5, Secret Society of Supervillains, great. And overall, I mean, he's an under 100-point character, so I like him.
Yeah. Now, like I said, we're going to see that mystical protection probably show up more in sealed than anything. Although in constructed, it's always good to be ready for mystical teams because Mystics team sucks. The Mystics team ability sucks to be the target of, right? So, but overall, like if I was to give this guy a rating, you wouldn't see him on. He's not a lot of the first choices on my teams. He'll probably end up being the last figure that goes on a Secret Society of Supervillains team, and given that that keyword is full of a lot of high point characters, he might not make a lot of the cuts.
He's kind of an anti-Bizarro Headpool Star Sapphire, I guess, kind of character, because he goes stealth and he has the anti-Mystics ability and all that stuff. I mean, I think that we may see him in competitive play, but I mean, I'd love to, until I have him in my hands and I'm actually scrolling through the dial and playing with him a little bit, I won't really know.
Yeah, I have that touch sensitivity too. I can look at this dial all day, every day, and say, it's not that good. But until I put it on the board, it's not really proven. I had the same problem with team abilities. Like, this doesn't seem so bad, and then they got really good. Hey, Jordan, how's it going? Just heads up, we're live already, Jordan.
All right.
Talking about Dr. Sivana. What are your thoughts on Mr. Dr. Sivana?
Don't have a lot of thoughts on him. I think he's pretty decent effective, but I don't think he's great.
Yeah, that's generally the consensus between us. But moving on to the guy who shared the preview day with him, Mike, if you want to pull him up.
Yeah.
Black Adam. Now, this is what I was talking about with Secret Society of Supervillains characters with really high point costs. We got Black Adam sitting at either 270 or 150. So if you're looking in a 300 realm, he's taking most of, if not all of your team points once you throw on resources and other additions to him. or he's taking up at least half of your points. Now, he does have a couple good bonuses. If he's the only character on your force that hasn't been KO'd, and this is confirmed, that's also if he's the only character on your force, you get to modify his attack value by +1. If he's the only character on your force that has not been KO'd and your team is a named theme team, instead, he gets +1 to all his combat values. So if you brought a friend with him, or a couple friends, and you came up with the Justice League team or Secret Society supervillains team with him, or you got really fancy, and well, no, I guess you know what? I'm not going to get into the finickiness of entities, but
I was just thinking, it's another Sinestro Corps moment.
Yeah.
He even looks like it.
This actually comes to the issue where the entity is actually still part of your team when he's on him.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird element. But that said, if you do happen to build an Injustice team or a Secret Society supervillains team and they all die except for him, he becomes even scarier than he already is. His next trait, his trait is Super Strength, which is never a problem if you ask me. And he also cannot be targeted by Outwit unless the targeting character has mystical keyword. Now, Sealed, that's unfortunately not going to be that great for this set because this set is jam-packed with mystical keyword to the wazoo.
Oh, lordy, mystical.
All the mystical in the set. So that's not going to be as effective as Sealed as it is in Constructed. Now, the mystical team might see a bit of a comeback in Constructed right now with this set. We'll get into that after we're done talking about what he is. But he starts out beginning of the dial with hypersonic, decent attack, invincible, and high damage. Add that with the super strength, you get the potential for an 8 damage. But his second click is also equally scary because he has charge and flurry, and it's his full movement charge as well. So he doesn't have a speed value, and if he isn't carrying a character, he breaks through blocking terrain. I was actually testing with Amber the other day because she's actually willing to test with me again. And I was thinking this guy would be great on ranks, which is actually very popular right now amongst a lot of players in the ROC tournaments. Then we move on to his attack special power, where he can use Quake, but his damage value is his printed damage instead of 2. And on the clicks that he has this power, it is 4 or 3. His damage never drops below 3, which of course you really need in a character who's 270 or higher. And he comes with the Mystics team ability himself, and the Injustice League team ability, which, if you ask me, still needs to get the Massive Evil treatment, but that's neither here nor there. Not that great a team ability, but it's still there. Mike, your turn. What do you think of Black Adam, the beast that he is?
I like the Quake. I mean, I think that anything that's going to make Quake more powerful is pretty awesome, and it almost looks like an every other for his move and attack abilities.
Yep.
You get to go from hypersonic to the charge flurry to charge flurry to hypersonic again, and back. I don't know. I think he's going to be pretty flexible. I mean, I wouldn't really want to use him at his lower point value. Most likely, I'd probably keep him at his higher point value. But yeah, I mean, you pointed out earlier that the entity thing probably wouldn't work with him because of that first trait, because you want to achieve that first trait, right? So
Yeah.
I'd have to screw around with it. I'd have to see what the new resources are going to look like. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
And let's never forget the idea of him with the Sinestro Core power battery.
Oh, of course.
On his own.
Yeah.
But,
Good.
like, I think that's an understatement. It's like saying anybody over 250 points in the yellow power battery.
Anybody over 150 in a power battery is pretty fantastic in a 300-point meta game.
Yep. But Black Adam, any character that can dish out 11 damage on its second click is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need much else. At 150 points, I don't feel like he's actually overcosted. He's, yes, 5 clicks long for 150, but outwit hypersonic speed and super strength, so he's dealing up to 6 damage.
Yep.
That's not bad, especially with the Mystics and the, I was going to say Injustice League team ability, but that doesn't really...
That doesn't do anything. Let's not fool ourselves anymore.
No. Well, there was a point in being where it did, but like now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think he's actually extremely extremely good.
Yeah.
What he does.
Invincible, impervious mystics. I mean, that's amazing on its own.
He's going to be potent, and I'm almost certain that George Masu is like, I never made a Black Adam. This is my new Black Adam. He's definitely sent me some signals that he likes this one. So, Mike, let's move on to the next set of previews.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, while you're gone, Jordan, we got all professional, and Mike is screen sharing with us.
I realized that was very very cool.
So we have Martian Manhunter and Despero. Now, one of the things I want to point out about this set is DC's been lacking in a lot of the brick house sets. You know, Marvel had the Incredible Hulk, which was full of brick houses. And outside of War of Light, there hasn't been a lot of great big characters in DC sets. Even when you go into the Flash, the highest point character in that set was 225 with Captain Thunder. There wasn't exactly a one-man army coming out of that set. And then you have Trinity War, where we are just getting bombarded with Superman and Martian Manhunters. Now, going off the top, he's playable at 300, 200, or 100. So no matter how you want to put him on your team, you can put him on your team. He's got a trait with his 300-point version where opposing forces subtract 1 from their total action total if it's not already reduced by any other effect. Now, there isn't another effect that I know of that this occurs, unless I missed something on another character. But that also, for a 300-point thingy in the metagame, that alleviates, for players who are willing to play this guy at 300 points, that fear of being out-actioned. Now you're only being out-actioned by 1 action per turn. Now, granted, this is not perfect. I mean, he comes with Indomitable, which is great, but he starts off with Super Senses, which is very, very susceptible to a good solid hit with Precision Strike. Now we move on to his next trait, which has Phasing, Shape Change, and Stealth. So as long as you're not up against a character who sees through hindering, you do have that safety of Stealth. Phasing for being wherever you need to be to set up your next shot. And of course, a trait of Shape Change is always useful, although there are some things that I've seen that make that relatively worthless, such as Battle Fury. But across the dial, there is no other special powers on this character. It's all hypersonic, running shot, like charge. Everything is what you see on the dial with the exception of those 2 traits. And his improved movement, ignore characters. And he's got the PD team ability. So, I mean, that's only so useful. It's not going to be really used on his 300-point version in, of course, the 300-point metagame, but the 200 and 100-point version might get some use out of that. So, Mike, thoughts on this character?
300 points. Yeah. I like. Well, immediately, I mean, you've got shape change, super senses, and probability control top dial. So, I mean, it's very potent. It's very, very difficult to even hit this guy. 10, 12, 19. I mean, unbelievable. He's moving, he's shooting, he's just very, very, very difficult to pin down. I looked at this the other day and I was like, holy crap. Plus the sculpt is really cool. I don't understand why they just made the morph on the hands alone, but it's working for me anyway.
Okay. Jordan, your thoughts on this character?
I've got mixed feelings. Generally, I said when I saw the Superman that we were actually the first thing that came out of my head was, oh shit, we might get a Martian Manhunter that doesn't suck, or a Martian Manhunter that's a Martian Manhunter. Now, we got most of that. I just, at 300 points, being Martian Manhunter, who's 300 points, and not having a reducer.
That is one of the things that does terrify me about his 300-point version, because if Amber can probably regale you with the tales of how, if it's a shape change roll or super senses roll, she's going to make it. I'm not.
Right.
I've had characters with impact, shape change, super senses, and impervious, and had multiple chances to roll them, and I will not roll those abilities myself. You could give me a blue power battery, and I probably personally still won't roll those abilities.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, now granted, that's not a 100% of the time kind of thing, but I mean, I don't trust those abilities a great deal. That are not nearly as much as I should personally. And even with the odds, like knowing the odds on actually taking any damage with that many saving throws or rollouts, it gets me a little tentative. But previewed with him, we had a man of another skin color.
Yes.
More purpley. There we go. Despero, the man with the giant eye in his forehead. Also, improved movement, ignore characters. He's got a trait where he can't be the target of incapacitate, mind control, outwit, or psychic blast by characters of a lower point value. Now, 235, that list is lengthy in a 300-point metagame. He's got a special attack power. He can use steal energy, and he can use it normally or during range combat attacks that target a single character. When he does, increase the amount healed by 1 for each of the following the target can use: incapacitate, mind control, outwit, or psychic blast. Yeah. Now that he gets on his higher click dial, the 235-point dial, starting on his third click, a much later dial on his 165-point version, or very late dial if you're talking about the 235-point version. So he's got a little bit of extra staying power, assuming you can nail with that 9 and 8 attack that he has late game. Now, granted, 235 points leaves you some room, some space to build around, so you can keep those high enough with characters like Weasel. They do exist. And he's also got a white damage power. He may modify either his damage or attack value by +1 when targeting an opposing character that can use incapacitate, mind control, outwit, or penetrating psychic blast. Generally, these are the 4 powers you see a lot of on a lot of figures in the metagame, specifically outwit, penetrating psychic blast, and mind control. And this is an important part of it too. Is that's worded as can use. So even if they get it from a special power, get it from a trait, get it from a relic or a resource, he's going to be able to affect those characters because of the can use clause. Can use, of course, being different than possess. So, Mike, take it away.
I haven't really spent a lot of time looking at this character yet. The steal energy is always interesting when it can be used. Like I think of John Stewart from the Black Lantern John Stewart from War of Light with the ranged combat steal energy. Then it says when he does, increase the amount healed by 1 for each of the following the target can use: incapacity, mind control, etc., etc. At the same list as what's below. So I mean, it's very clear that they designed him to be anti-counter, so a counter to counters. Looks interesting. I'd like to spend some more time actually looking at it before I make any real comment on it.
Yeah, that's cool. Jordan.
He reminds me of the Cosmic Justice. Yeah, Cosmic Justice version of Despero, the first one that actually came out into the game, which is reminiscent to the time in point where I've been playing probably the most, other than now, of this game. So it was kind of really nice to see Despero. I didn't expect it, and I'm thoroughly impressed. Other than that 17 defense, like all the way through, it's just like,
yeah, and that small spot where he has a 16 defense, that's a dangerous zone when you consider that it's one. Like if you get the first click with 16, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, if you can deal 5 clicks through that with you got a character like Black Adam carrying around a heavy object here and there. You might run into an early death with him, especially without any kind of stop click to get through that. Now, of course, that's an extreme example, as that's often the case when you do something like that. But this is not the kind of character I'm going to play. For those of you who are familiar with me, I'm very afraid of tent poles unless it's a seal tournament. So. It's not my comfort level, so I don't know the skill. I don't have the skill value to play this character. The fact that he ignores character makes him very mobile. You're not stuck with characters with plasticity or any kind of holding pattern type things, right? So
you know who he'd really like? He'd like Ion. I think Ion and him would be a really good combination.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that one, especially when you consider that Ion does have a lot of powers that can really complement him at the right time, especially when you're handing out 2 powers. His late dial would probably definitely favor the extra stat bonuses for sure, because I think Ion keeps generally consistent stats, and though they're not high on the early dial, they're fantastic for late dial.
Yes, and added to it, I think the first thing that came to my mind was I think Ion's the best for that defense bonus because you take that defense ability, then they get potential +2 depending on action tokens.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you can give Despero a 19 after charging in. So
Yep. Absolutely. So there's options, and the fact that he's 235 points is what sets him apart from the Martian Manhunter, where we were all saying it's a little we're hesitant on him. This guy leaves you a little bit more space to work with. So
in comparison to the 300, I leave no space Martian Manhunter.
yeah, absolutely. So we'll move on to the last set of previews that we have, which was actually today's previews. And this is one I've actually been looking forward to. Now, one of the characters caught me off guard because we have 2 characters already named outside or in this set, and we got a third one here holding Pandora's skull or Pandora's box, of course, which is a skull in the Trinity War. And we got Owlman, who I was actually looking forward to too, because I've been looking forward to seeing what they did with the CSA this time. I want to be polite about the CSA because I want to actually get them on the board and see how effective the team ability is in the current game. But overall, stat-wise, I've been left wanting. You know what? Let's start with Owlman first. So Owlman is a typical. He's the anti-Batman for those who are unfamiliar. So he starts off with some stealth. He's got ignore, hindering for movement. He's got a decent white defense power that gives him combat reflexes, toughness, and willpower. And then he's got a white damage power that gives him outwit and stops characters within 6 squares from using outwit on characters with a higher play value. Now, what's cool about this is being able. A lot of characters packing outwit include characters like Harley Quinn, who at 65 points is everybody's bloody nightmare as an outwitter. She's decent statted. She's making a character on your team more potent. And the fact that she has outwit is that little bit of icing on the cake. So a character like Owlman at his full value is definitely going to stop that. Now, at full value, 116 points, this is probably the first character I looked at with the CSA team ability and said, I'd actually pay 116 points for this dial. If I was to be technical, I'd pay 115 points for this dial. I'll accept the 1 point differential because it's probably in there somewhere for some reason. But I don't think I'm gonna ever see myself playing this 50-point or the 50-point version. It would be nice to have a 50-point Owlman, and it's nice to have that low point cost on the CSA. But for myself, I don't know. I don't see the utility. You only get a 50-point character. There's not a lot of the 27-point Black Panther doesn't exist in this metagame, and I don't think there is very many outwit characters with outwit that are less than 50 points. So I don't think you're gonna get full value out of his damage power.
Though the way I read it, I believe it would be into the individual character, so not necessarily Owlman. So if you had him at 50 points, and you had, say, Ultraman, who's at 225, Harley couldn't outwit him.
Okay. You know what? The second you said that, I quickly reread it and saw the last sentence, and reading comprehension is good. Okay, so he's actually playable in the 50-point version for specifically that power.
I like him at 50 points actually better because he's not all, I've only got stealth. I mean, I don't like him just having stealth. I would have liked a sidestep, at least.
Or a charge or something. Or use the special power gives him something to move with, you know what I mean?
He didn't even need stealth, to be honest. I just wanted, like, something move and attacky to, like, at least, if you're going to give me a team of overcosted people, let me brawl with them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let me take him to town.
Let me just charge in and watch Spark fly. I don't. The more you make me spend on a figure, it's not worth it if I have to spend more time thinking about my play.
Yeah.
Because that again has to come into cost effectiveness. If I have to think 3 turns ahead to use a character, then 160 points seems too much for me. Now, I'm not saying he's overcosted to a great amount. I'm just saying I would never use him in some kind of meta or 300-point team.
Yes, absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree with you on that one. And because I've read that power a little better, the 50-point one does have a lot more potential now, if you ask me, in the 300-point realm. And nobody wants to lose to a Harley Quinn outwit on their big figure or their tentpole on their team. Sorry, we've taken all the time here. Mike, Thoughts?
You guys have covered a lot of it, a lot of my thoughts anyway. I'm tickled by the fact that there is Owlman and Ultraman and the CSA in general. Just gets my inner nerd going, of course. Yeah, I like the anti-outwit. I mean, that's pretty much all that really stands out for me on this. And the 50-point version is, of course, the version that I would go with for this particular figure. Whenever I see 116 points, I think really it's 120. You know, it's not really 116 points, unless you're throwing on some little figures like, I don't know, Blind Owl, right? To kind of offset it, because then you're at least, it's really 117 points then.
I used to think like that before resources, because now it's just like, oh my god, a relic. Oh my god, I can put this in. Oh my god, I just got enough points for this. Like it's.
Yeah.
I keep things down to the last point now.
But it's still like in the simpler game, like when you're just throwing stuff together, it doesn't like that little 1 point over kind of just irks me, you know?
See, I think of it very close to the way you were doing. It's like he's like 120, but 4 points of his 120 is towards a relic.
Right.
Or a resource to make him good.
Yeah.
So, Mike, if you want to pull up the Outsider.
Sure.
Excellent. Now, this Outsider is not just another repeat. You are not seeing things. You're not seeing double. This is actually a different figure, slightly in the modeling where you see that they've added the Pandora's box to it. And this figure does function differently than the original Outsider. So right off the bat, he's got this trait that says, when building your forest, Pandora's box costs 12 points less, which scares me when I think I don't know what Pandora's box costs yet. And is this?
I think it's a free Pandora's box. That's what it makes me think.
Yeah, and if that makes Pandora's box cost 0 all of a sudden, Outsider is going to be the only way to play. It's going to be like that whole split lip with the Book of Skulls situation, where if you play the Book of Skulls, you don't play split lip, you're got a long day ahead of you.
Or it could be like say if the minimum cost of the resource is 20 or say 16, you're paying 2 to 6 points for a full resource, or I mean, not necessarily full resource, but at its minimum cost.
Yep. And then now, if we move into the next part of this character, is his next trait, which is going to make him go beyond that whole I put split lip on the team to make the Book of Skulls work. That was 20 points. This is a 50-point character. You're adding probability control. This character has Outwit, and he has this trait: give the Outsider a power action and place him and a friendly character in each other's squares. Unless that character shares a keyword with the Outsider, it couldn't have been given any actions this turn. So, what they're saying there is, if the character's been given an action and it doesn't share any keywords with the Outsider, you can't do this. And also, that character can't be given any actions after the fact either. So they're just kind of covering that whole, like, don't do something and then do this unless he shares a keyword, which is Crime Syndicate or Secret Society of Supervillains. That's the third time I think I've dropped the Secret Society of Supervillains in our previews today. So that character, those guys are getting a boost, especially with the Lex Luthor that me and Jordan talked about last week. So now what I want to point out before we get into his special defense power is now not only are we reducing the cost of Pandora's box, but we're bailing out a character who could potentially be about to die. And then you're putting him right next to a Moira McTaggart or a character who's going to support this guy, while this guy's got himself an Outwit out there and a Mastermind. Now, this guy is not necessarily going to survive the switch. I'm going to point that out right there. He's a 50-point character with 1, 2, 3. If he takes 4 clicks of damage, he's dead. And then, but he has a special Mastermind. His defense power. He can use Mastermind, and when he does, friendly characters within 6 squares that are not within opposing line of fire are considered adjacent and are considered also a lower point value. So if you've got a guy off to the side that your opponent can't see, but Outsider can see and is within 6 squares, you've now got some damage mitigation on him. And if the guy dealing damage to him, if he's kind of not paying attention to this, isn't packing a precision strike, you're passing off generally. Not a lot of people are going to throw the whole 4 damage at this guy. You're just going to throw a little bit of damage onto a potentially tougher target. So now, as a whole, I think this is a better character to include with the resource than Split Lip. He's at the very worst a higher cost protected. At even better, he's going to survive a couple shots to the face, which comes with probability control from the CSA team ability should he be in the thick of it. And he does have Outwit and Perplex intermittent in his style. Mike, your thoughts?
It's a really interesting character, very, very flexible. I like the fact that, right off the bat, the fact that Pandora's Box, whatever it's going to cost 12 points less. Makes him very, very valuable on a team in that way. His defensive ability is interesting. I was just thinking about the last one, or the actual defensive, not just the trait, but the defensive ability down below. And hidden in our midst, the outsider can use Mastermind when he does friendly characters within 6 squares that are not within any opposing character's line of fire, considered adjacent and lower point value. Some of that will be dependent on map roll, but I think about even Pogs. Using Pogs as just soak tanks for keeping him alive, and using that the second trait mechanic again to be able to save your main character. I don't know. He seems like he'd be a really good companion for a tentpole. I don't know why it came to my mind when I was looking at this guy, but the Despero that we were just looking at may pair well with him.
Of course,
I'm not sure if he does have that. Let me just see here. Yeah, Secret Society of Supervillains right there.
So that's already a theme team. And then once we see how much Pandora's Box is going to cost, this could potentially be a very dangerous combination of characters.
Yeah.
Once we have an idea of what the resource does and how much this is going to affect the bringing it into the game.
If it's anywhere under 27 points, he can pull it onto his team at full cost.
Yep.
So, yeah, that would be a 300 point. Yeah, 27, because you can add 15. You got 15 points left over, minus 12 from his trait. Yeah, so you can add 27 points of whatever Pandora's Box is to this team to make it 300 even. I actually really like that. I'm definitely going to be playing it at least once now. But I'm going to save... honestly, I think my opinion on the Outsider is almost 100% based on how Pandora's Box is, even despite how much I like his second trait, which is the whole switcheroo kind of thing. Because that kind of just brings into my mind, it's like, well, if I play a hypersonic speed character and then I do my thing and I have my pit crew, I go out, I smash someone, and then I switch it. Obviously, they share the keyword, so I'm allowed to do that. Bear in mind. And or I wait until they hit me, switch, get my character back, heal him, and then go back out for round 2. It sounds like any team where you have a character that can alpha strike benefits from this. Absolutely. Because if you alpha strike your opponent, then you just flip your alpha strike back and you do it a second time. Now your alpha strike's dealing twice the amount of damage as a normal alpha strike would, and it's already effective as what it is.
Did you guys know this? I had no idea because I don't know this character from the comics, but his real name is Alfred Pennyworth.
Yeah, he's a CSA Alfred.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So. The next preview is going to be a dial list preview, but it got me really excited. I think of the people I know, I'm the only one really excited for all of these figures. We have got a sneak peek at the 2015 convention exclusive figures. So, starting from the top here, we have Spider-Ham. They really missed the ball on naming that one properly.
No. Can we stop for just 2 seconds so I can go on a Jordan rant?
Oh, boy.
They did Spider-Verse in the comic books, okay? They added 100 new Spider-Men. Cool. Spider-Man and Spider-Woman. They had all of the different amazing storylines they just created to put into this. You know what they choose? Spider-Ham.
Now, in Spider-Ham's defense, I do actually recall a comic book back in it was either late 80s or early 90s, where Spider-Ham teamed up with Howard the Duck.
Yes.
He's got cred. He's got street cred.
Yeah, but I don't want to see Howard the Duck either. Like,
I do.
you know what? I will be satisfied with Spider-Ham as long as we get a Spider-Gwen. A Spider-Gwen Stacy from the Spider-Verse in the next Spider-Man set. That would please me.
A silk version.
Anyway, moving on, we have Loki, Agent of Asgard. Something I'm not too familiar with, but I like the look of him myself.
So cool.
Yeah. And then we do have the female Ghost Rider, who, if I remember correctly, was part of last year's or the year before's fan vote figure. And those unfamiliar with the figure, Mike has been pleasant enough to pull up.
Circle of 4, baby. It's complete.
Yeah. Alejandra Blaze. She's part of the Circle of 4, for those of you familiar with that storyline. I am not, unfortunately. I'm way behind in my comic books. I swear I'm trying to catch up. But I'm personally really excited to have another Ghost Rider because I just like Ghost Rider. I'm an old school fan of the Midnight Suns, and anything related to Ghost Rider is awesome. I would like to see Vengeance himself one day as a Heroclix figure.
I could do without the crotch rocket here, that detracts a little bit, but it's really interesting that her lore has to do with human trafficking.
Yeah, and in their defense, they did leave the crotch rocket out of the figure for you.
Yeah.
I would have preferred the crotch rocket. But
I think
I'm a little disappointed because you kind of brought up Midnight Suns, and I instantly went, oh, I don't think this one's going to get it.
It isn't. This one is probably not going to get the Midnight Suns keyword because I don't believe it falls into the Midnight Suns faction, to say the least.
Which disappoints me because Midnight Suns fucking raw.
Yeah, but we're about to lose them all anyway because we got them all in Amazing Spider-Man.
Don't tell me these things.
We move a little bit further down. Mike, there we go. Hey, look, one of the Midnight Suns might be coming back.
There you go.
We have a brand new Doctor Strange.
Got the ugly dice.
Yeah, packed with a D20. I can't wait to see what that does to him. I'm really, really actually excited. I love this D20 functionality they've created. I can't wait to try the Impossible Man with it. I just realized he's in my box of shame, and it's a shame that I haven't played him yet. That's why he's in that box. But I haven't had a chance to try it with Resurrection Man. And the way it works with Resurrection Man is probably one of the most hilarious things I've ever had a chance to try, because he's a new character every time. How am I going to play him? I don't know. But also we have the Supreme Intelligence. Now this is a figure who's on a 2x2 dial, probably, it looks like.
Colossal for sure.
I don't know how they're going to make this one work as a colossal figure. It may be a little bit more pumpy or making your figures better, kind of like the Uatu 50-point version. This may just be actually an oversized support character for all we know.
Resource.
Yeah, or it could be, akin to Dr. Manhattan and just have 800 range and 3,000 attack and 30 damage.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's viable.
Absolutely. And all those numbers are realistic for the Supreme Intelligence. So moving to DC, we have Adam Strange. Now, I want to point out, DC is not, the DC characters are even less fan following or fan familiar than a lot of, than all the Marvel ones, because I know the Supreme Intelligence is the thing behind the Kree. Doctor Strange is a very familiar character, but we have Adam Strange, who, unless you're a big fan of the more space-based DC comic books, you're not really familiar with this character. I know he's follows a lot older books. We also have Animal Man, who I've been told actually had a really great run in the new 50s.
Yes!
Very good.
Yep.
Yes!
And of course, skipped over Animal Man because I don't think as many people are familiar with The Weird as myself and my dad are. Because I remember the character vividly from a comic book that my dad had purchased at a comic book convention. It was a mini-series that was, I want to say this one was definitely mid-90s. Actually, we got it in 92, I think, so early 90s, sorry. And now this was a guy who I didn't fully fathom the entire story because I was a lot younger when I read it, and I really wanted to go back and read it, and then there was a problem, and we've lost the comic since. But this is a guy who's actually able to go toe-to-toe with the DC universe, basically. He was beating up Superman, the Green Lantern, Batman, everybody in the room was... and it was kind of like a story very similar to those familiar with the Sentry story in Marvel, where he's just a guy, he doesn't know where he came from, has no idea of where he got all these powers, and he is just fucking powerful. The Now, that's not to do too much detail because, again, I'm trying to go off of a 13-year-old's memory, and that's, ouch, that hurt because I just realized that's 18, 19 years ago. So
92? Jay, that's the year of my birth.
yeah,
That's like 23 years ago almost.
no, yeah, 89. No, the book was written in 92. I read it when I was 13.
Well, in all
But-
fairness, in 1992 I was 12, so that's pretty close.
Yeah.
But I would like to point out,
But before we keep going into how old I am, let's go further down.
if the weird is going to be that powerful, all I can say is WizKids is for sure going to fuck him up.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
you can't make this character 100% accurate. I do feel like this is going to be another one of those characters similar to the Super Skrull or the Engineer, though, where you are going to get your pick of power.
Oh,
Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best way to approach this character at a high, like at least an over 50% of a 300-point team.
but then they also did the thing with Beyonder, and I felt like that was also, while not 100% as good as the Engineer or the Super Skrull in idea, I felt like accurately kind of does the same thing. Where it's like, let my rolls decide how powerful I am.
Yeah, or let me kind of pick and choose what I need in the meantime. So we move
All
on
right.
now.
Before we move on,
Uh,
I just want to say that Animal Man, that last run, the Lemire run, Jeff Lemire's run of Animal Man, is awesome. It's one of the best New 52 runs of any comic that's been made so far.
And he's even got the Assassin's Creed symbol on his chest.
Don't care.
Oh
Be
my
interesting
God.
to see if they do a trait copy with him or something like that.
I just want to point out that all of my memories from when I was really young are terrible. This comic originally came out in 1988. We picked it up at a convention in the early 90s, though. That's where I know it from. And he's okay. He's part of the New 52, and he's part of the Stormwatch, so that's the version we're getting.
Oh, cool.
Oh, Stormwatch.
Okay, I'll accept you for that.
Oh, image.
Okay, so next up, oh my God, look at this thing. This is massive. Brainiac's Skull Ship is joining the already large collection of DC vehicles. Now, I'm just predicting that it's a vehicle. It could very well play as a colossal figure. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a ship. It's a skull ship. By definition, it's a vehicle, right? So I'm assuming vehicle. Just when we thought they were gone. This one is actually running a little higher in price than other usual convention-exclusive colossals. That one's running a $70 US price tag.
That's bloody expensive.
Yeah, because when you look at the Supreme Intelligence, who's going to be running a $50 price tag, which is the usual colossal price. This is a little bigger than most of them in most cases. As well, we're not sure how the Canadian dollar's strength right now is going to affect Canadian nationals as far as pricing for these things. We're hoping we get at par, which would be nice.
Yeah.
Are we getting them at Canadian Nationals this year?
Well, last year we got the Anti-Monitor and we got the Galactus, the Zombie Galactus, and
all of them last year.
the other things. Yeah, we got everything at Canadian Nationals last year, so I have full.
Yeah, we did get everything at Canadian Nationals.
So we'll move down to his companion piece, also purchasable, Felix Faust, also coming with a D20. So we got two Magic users this year, packing D20s. And we actually, for those of you following the Constantine on the show, unfortunately, I know, Jordan, it's eating you on the inside. We saw this character recently on the show, played by the guy who was in Breaking Bad playing, what was it, Hector was his name? The old guy with the bell?
That's who that guy was.
You didn't remember? I just broke it. So,
Kill Tortuga.
yep. And yeah, so a whole bunch of previewing going on. Really excited for I want every piece of every single one of these con exclusive, which hurts because I gotta get into all the battle royales now that I possibly can. So which means I either gotta qualify early, like I did this past year, or I gotta do really well and play in all the qualifying tournaments in order to get all the ones that I really want. Or just win Canadian Nationals. You get them all anyway, right?
See, I think maybe they were just targeting you, but personally, I felt like this year's con selection wasn't that great, and this was a year where they were just like, hey, we're not going to make characters that are important or extremely important to main storylines. We're going to give you guys that are really cool to have.
Yeah.
I felt like they were extras. Well, a lot of years they're like, hey, I know we've never made a dupe and he's part of the X-Force and X-Static, but like, he's a con.
Yeah.
And like, World's Finest, both times, cons. Like, those are things that are just like, they kind of hurt when they have to be cons, or like Amazo being a con. Like Whiplash, he could have come out in Invincible Iron Man, but he's a con. I don't know, Mike, how many of these cons do you want? Or maybe I'm the one who's just, eh.
You know, I try to think about it from the point of view that I had last year. I didn't really care which ones that I got, other than Old Man Wolverine, which I was really, really happy that I won. The ones that I have from last year, even though I didn't think that I was going to like them at the time, I've played with them since, and I really do enjoy them. So I think it's ultimately going to be determined by what the dials are like and how well they play together and how much they actually get me into the comic book side of it. Because a lot of times I'll play with a character that I've never even heard of before, I've heard of vaguely, and I'll go and read the comics afterwards, and I'll be like, oh, this guy's awesome. I know exactly where these guys are coming from. I think that I am interested in the $70 Gigantor here. The biggest one that I'm interested in, obviously, because I made some noise over it, is Animal Man. If I don't get an Animal Man, I'm going to cry. And Doctor Strange. I think that those... and you know what? Since I did the research on it, Lady Ghost Rider. Yeah.
Then read Circle of Four. It's a good storyline.
Why don't you lend it to me?
Okay.
All right. You will now read the Circle of Four. So, before we get into a further discussion, Mike, I just remembered that there was some extra stuff that kind of found its way across the internet. If you check in the chat, I put up a little link in there.
Well, let me see here.
Take a second.
Where's the chat linky doodle?
He's on HC Realms, I believe, already.
Let's see.
Oh, yes, excellent. Okay, so this is a Figures.com preview. Now, I don't want to get too in-depth into what they had, because a lot of the characters they had were a little less than stellar or exciting, but I do want to go down towards the bottom. They actually have the stats and model for Gluttony, who is one of the 7 deadly sins, and is actually one of the chases in this set. They give you a glance at all the rares, commons, uncommons, and etc. in the set, a couple glances at some of the super rares, and we have Gluttony in all his big, slimy fatness.
And he's going to make my Orange Lantern corpse every time.
Yep. Now,
you know, immediately I think of Clayface. I don't know why, but just...
He looks a little Clayfacey.
Yeah, a little bit.
Fat and slimy, I get it. Now, if you scroll down a little on this site...
Look! He has T-Rex arms!
Yep.
That's awesome!
He's got reverse giant reach.
Yes.
Needs to be in the same square to make close combat attacks.
And we also see what Sloth and Wrath look like. Now, unfortunately, they didn't preview Sloth, but they did preview Wrath and Gluttony. So scroll down a little further. That's Vibe. He's cute. He's got a neat little Quake thing and something that... Okay, we got a new Bizarro. We'll stop for a second. Bizarro in this set is common.
Oh, really?
This is a common figure. This is...
I like that they're giving kind of like a roundabout of characters. They used to always put the same characters in the same rarity slot. Like, I'm pretty sure Bizarro has always been a rare higher before this date.
Yeah. I feel the same way about that, too. We might have seen him at...
for Lex Luthor.
But
he's a soak tank for Lex Luthor.
Oh, shit.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So,
but it's really expensive.
He is. He's 215 points. Now, I'm thinking about this. This is a common figure, and I'm thinking about this in sealed.
Right.
This is taking one of the slots that could potentially be 3 figures in your pack or 2 or 3 figures in your pack, and just the highest chance of pulling one of these is in there. So, overall, this is actually a figure I wouldn't be upset pulling if I actually had to play him. It would be nice to see a secondary choice on it, and I do feel that the original, like the most recent Bizarro before this, the main set rare one, is still a little bit more effective than this one. But as far as the sealed environment and this character being a common, I'm actually kind of excited to see this character show up. Plus, the trait is super strength.
Unless there's an 85-point Lex Luthor in this set.
That trait's not going to go off.
No, it's just it does. I don't know.
It's not going to be used.
17 defense for 215 points.
Yeah, I again.
But we were paying 17 defense for 235 on Despero or 245 on Despero.
Yeah, but he has a bunch of shit that goes with it that makes him so much better.
I'm joking, but
this is one trait. That's all there is. Like that's it.
I'm just saying, Despero is a super rare or a rare, and Bizarro's a common.
Right, so you will have a chance of pulling him much greater chance.
Exactly. So again, this is those. I would not play him in the main metagame, but if I pulled him in a sealed, probably instantly on my team. But I want to get down to Gluttony so that we can move on to some more discussion about the game itself and how we've been doing with it. So Gluttony, if you look at this guy at base value, this is going to be the same problem you ran into with Absorbing Man. He's 170 points for those numbers. Terrible, right? Now, what are these numbers covered with these white colors, right? And this is where he becomes a little bit more scary. Now, you can't. One of the things that's worth pointing out is you cannot carry this character. I believe it's part of his. No, it's not part of his trait.
Defense power.
Defense power.
Which he has on every click except for the last click, which he has regeneration on. But his defense power says damage dealt, or when Gluttony's dealt damage, he ignores all but one damage.
Yeah.
Taking one damage at a time, and this power can't be countered, which is pretty redundant because he has a Quintessence, but Quintessence is cancelable with things like Bat Belt.
Right.
Can't be ignored. So your single target Pulse Wave is still only dealing one damage to me. Pretty cool. This is one of those guys that's going to sit there and eat your shots in the face and laugh at you while Headpool next to him with Entity is going to heal him.
Well, this is just another addendum to the or another character to add to the Headpool Bizarro, not the one we just read. Headpool Bizarro team. You know, you have that with throw on the he doesn't need the Star Sapphire, but at least then it would give him some shape change.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish he had that would make him honestly outrageously good for me is if he had plasticity or some kind of barrier. And that's just because I want to put him on Orange Lantern teams.
Put Pro Cell on him.
Orange Lantern, there you go. You have both of those.
Pro Cell it. Put Pro Cell on him.
Because if you put an Orange Lantern battery on the same team with him,
but see,
he's got plasticity and power, right?
The plasticity, yes. With that, I would have loved the plasticity without Prostolite because that's another 25 points on this character. But at 107 points, I would pay that every game, no questions asked, if he had plasticity.
But like I said, this isn't with Prostolite. This is if you put him on a team with an Orange Lantern battery. The second he had...
No. I was agreeing to you. I was just saying Mike said Prostolite. And I was I didn't want an entity, but an Orange Lantern battery's wonderful.
Then, of course, he's also... Now, I want to point out his damage power, because it's also equally important. He's got Exploit Weakness, period. When he hits an opposing character, remove any relic and resource attachments assigned to it from the game. Relics and resource attachments can't be assigned to that character this game. Now... that second part isn't attached to a close combat attack. If you slap this guy a sniper rifle, all of a sudden he's poking away your resources at a distance. And this is when he hits. And he doesn't have to deal damage. So Gluttony at 107 points is a pain in the butt to kill. Very easy to heal with, very low defenses if you use support, or let's say we use Entity or White Lantern power or whatever, anything. This is a guy who is probably going to see a mark in the metagame. Now, I would like to see the rest of the things before I make my final judgment on which ones are definitely going to have the biggest effect. But this guy is, even though he's 107 points, it still leaves you 193 points to work with. And in the current game, you might as well have 300 to work with still. And if we go down just a little bit, we have our first look at one of the relics of the 7 deadly sins, and it's Wrath, who is the one I immediately thought of when we were talking about Martian Manhunter.
Right.
This character can use combat reflexes, sidestep, and willpower. Already he's adding 3 powers to your character, and Adjacent opposing characters can't use shape change.
So basically, some kind of Persuado Battle Fury.
Yes. but Battle Fury with being able to be carried?
And make range combat actions.
Holy crap. So all of a sudden, little things are starting to trickle through, and every little bit that comes out of this set is really getting very exciting.
Like, if you put Wrath on Martian Manhunter, he would counter himself. Because he's already got the Precision Strike.
Yeah.
He would counter his own shape change and the super senses.
No, it's just opposing characters can't use shape change. Adjacent opposing characters.
Oh, okay, so he'd have to use hypersonic speed melee attacks. But still, he could counter both of those powers, or any character with Precision Strike, really, could counter both powers.
Yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden my ideas, I mean, I wish this was usable in No Tactics, because I'm still I'm liking the idea of my Guy Gardner team still. And I really got to get that out of my system. That team has got to leave my vocabulary. Michael, thank you very much for sharing your screen with us and making this a lot more better for the fans.
Not a problem.
But right now, I want to start talking about. Let's start talking about nationals. Guys, are you planning on going?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think I made top 32 last year, so I think I'll do a little bit better this year.
All right. Jordan, are you coming with us this year?
For sure.
For sure. Awesome.
We need team shirts.
Team shirts.
Team shirts.
Yeah, I guess
Look
since
at that gorgeous mug. I haven't seen it all
I'm
show.
not required to do Married with Clicks, I might do a Metal Lab T-shirt. We'll see.
I'll make you a logo.
Oh, Mike's gonna make us a logo. Are you offended, Amber? All right, cool.
I'm a little offended.
Why?
Why? Do you want to make a logo?
I think
Yeah.
you just listen attention.
How about the both of you make a logo and we'll let the fans vote?
Sure, that sounds good to me.
All right.
Team Jordan.
I will immediately ban it and break the voting machines.
All he's gonna do is draw a hat with some bangs over top of a word.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
So hold on, could we take a second to talk about Vibe? I love that we're finally getting Vibe and Killer Frost. It kind of re-brought into my attention when I started watching Flash, and it's like, oh, haha, Caitlin Snow and whatever his first name, Cisco Ramon, and they become Vibe and Killer Frost. And actually, this Vibe here, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
If you could give him a sniper rifle, he's meta. Because opposing characters within range must be given a double power action instead of a power action or a move action to activate charge, hypersonic speed, phasing teleport, or running shot. That's even phasing teleport.
Yeah.
Phasing teleport after people get into combat is huge.
Yeah.
I might have to refill my episode on what the sniper rifle makes better.
Yeah, like people think it has to be used offensively, but no, you throw it on Vibe, he's, what, that would be 88 points?
Yeah, 86.
It's a 6-point relic, not an 8-point relic, you're right. Sorry, that's
it's good.
really
He's really good for the points, I have to say.
Yeah, at 80 and the ability, because
And he gets TK.
this is one of those characters where you do have to do a little bit more work in comparison to the other ones to get these powers stopped. But these are powers you want stopped. And let's also point out that his trait gives him Quake. So he always has Quake as a backup option. But that doesn't matter because he's also got 4 different clicks with Pulse Wave.
And he starts off with TK, so he's useful for not only his powers.
Yep. And that's TK with willpower. TK with willpower is a scary idea.
Finally.
No battery with him.
They
Yeah.
literally give out TK and willpower so scarcely. It's
Yeah.
upsetting.
The last time we saw it was Sister Cersei, that I can remember.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
But she was like the definition of support character. It's like I have probability control, perplex, telekinesis, and willpower, and I fly.
Now, the only thing I question is how 50-point Scarlet Witch was even a thing, because they took out the Mystics and added 16 points.
Yeah. Well, the 50-point version didn't have the TK though. It was only the 75-point version that had the TK.
You're right, but still, they added TK, took out Mystics, and added 16 points, and we're like, you know what? That's a balance. It's like,
And can't forget that late dial support with the 14 defense with defend.
Oh my god.
How is Sister Cersei not on more teams?
Because she's one of those characters that's just like, you do everything, but why do I not just pay 1 point less for Harley?
Yeah.
Who, when you compare her to Harley, Harley is better. It's like a TK or a generally better character. Now, the TK gives you Alpha Strike on certain teams, but the stealth and the sidestep and the poison and the outwit and the everything that Harley gives kind of steps her over the edge on when it comes to planning positioning, planning your fight, and just repositioning in general.
And, if things go poorly for you, as I was talking to Joshua Ernest this weekend, Harley all of a sudden becomes an opponent's problem if you've had problems in the game. So, like, when the character who has been assigned as the pudding is dead, well, now Harley's a problem because at first glance, she's not that great. But add +1 to all those stats, and all of a sudden she's good.
Yeah, Harley, like if you lose your pudding, and she ends up gets those +1 stats, she's pretty much impossible to kill unless your opponent can see through stealth.
Yeah.
She sits in stealth. Your opponent has to spend the time to base her. Do you know what you do? You poison her. You poison everyone around you, and then you sidestep away.
Yep.
Ignoring characters. And then you end your turn. Base me again, motherfucker.
I have one thing to share here, and this is really just pretty much my closing statement. No, Adrian! Oh my god!
Figure.com pictures, for those of you who are just looking at this now, are not using the 3D models.
Oh my god.
You get to see the models, and they don't photograph well, it looks like, from the distance that they're at.
They don't look like they're as nice as the Flash models, to be honest. Like, the Flash models are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Although this looks pretty good, the Lex Luthor there.
I feel like they generally do that. They're just like, oh shit, we gotta throw out a set. Who are the cheapest sculptors we have around? Okay, you guys? Okay, these guys will eat this shit up.
And that's the thing, is like, they put all the right characters in the set, so we're gonna love it regardless, right? And
I feel like
I've seen the work that people can do with regards to making it look a little better. So, and for all we know, they actually got a bad batch, or they're 8 miles away with their camera. I don't know all the details.
Maybe when it was being shipped, it went through some radiation somewhere.
Who knows?
Well, I mean, like, also generally, they all look like really old school sculpts. Like, they're typical, like, I only do this, or this, or this, or this. Like, none of them
figures waiting for the bus on this set.
Yes, like Flash had a lot of dynamic poses.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the sets before that, whether or not characters were like super high quality painted or like this, that, the other, they were all in dynamic poses. Like even like Grundy, his fingers are all individually done in like this crude, like weird motion. And it felt like the last 4 or 5 sets, they put a lot more effort into the idea of sculpts.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that.
Like, I feel like the paint job here is probably just as good, if not slightly better than... Like, I feel like paint's generally getting better, but sculpts go up and down like no tomorrow.
Well, Captain Thunder from the Flash set with the little individual cat claws across his face, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, paint-wise. But what really pissed me off about that when I got him, because he looked way better in pictures than he did when I got him, was me realizing that he's Deadpool Thor.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
He's the exact same sculpt. Like, I've taken them, looked at them, and it's like, oh, it's just a repaint.
Yeah.
That's all it is, and it upset me about this much, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
So, now this weekend there was only an ROC or a ROC qualifier, not one of the super qualifiers, so we haven't managed to get any information out of this. I do want to make a correction for those of us who were watching last week. I kind of jumped the gun on how something functioned. Hope Summers doesn't copy Turtle quite the way I thought she does. Because Turtle's stopping movement ability or messing with movement ability is a trait, Hope Summers isn't going to copy that. So I kind of messed that up a little bit. I apologize to the fans who got angry about that. If you got angry about that, I'm sorry, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking that after, because I remember when I thought about the team, I was like, she copies Blind Owl to give the double pop-out.
Yeah.
And then you said Turtle, and I was like, oh my god, your idea is 1,000 times better than mine.
Yeah. But what wasn't against the rules was the double tachyon, which it still sends a twinge down my spine. Oh, yeah, Mike, I want to share this with you.
What?
Somebody has a tachyon and asks you for a tachyon. You say no. Because I don't know if you watched last week, but
No,
we were discussing a team that Howard Brock had brought to an ROC ROC Super Qualifier, and his team consisted of Highfather, Blind Owl, Turtle, and Hope Summers. Okay? So the idea was, first of all, your opponent's not going to get to you fast enough without punishing themselves.
Right.
For the most part, you're okay. If they get to you, the game takes place and you're starting here, but by then it's probably too late. By about the third turn, you've got Highfather on his third click, I believe, or sorry, he's taken 3 clicks of damage, which puts him on the first click you can take Tachyon. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope Summers copies Highfather and becomes Tachyon. And then Highfather either sticks around and keeps the pact in
Hope
play.
copies the replacement power, Mike,
Yeah.
and then Hope
Yeah.
power action to become Tachyon.
Right, because it's the power on the dial, so it's actually possible for her to
Yeah,
do
but
it.
because she's click 2, she doesn't turn to Tachyon click 4. She turns to Tachyon
No,
click
yeah.
2.
Click 2, so much more powerful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what becomes even more twisted is you now have the option, because you haven't taken damage from any attacks, the pact is still in play. So all of a sudden, the pact now is either you keep the pact handy, or you now have a second Tachyon on the board to start hypersonic pulse waving your opponent with single targets, because it's not really hard to pull off a single target with a 2-range pulse.
You just hold on to it until their most powerful guy is dead, and then you add the second Tachyon, unless they're playing a one-man army or a tent pole, in which case you get 2 Tachyons and you just fucking demolish them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just gross. That's pretty gross.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah,
like it.
so don't
You know
lend
what?
anybody hope.
Still gonna get
or,
the goddamn Tiamat Parallax out there, and it's gonna destroy that.
Now,
Okay.
with that news, I recently discovered another ruling that happened. I believe, did this ruling happen today, Amber?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, excellent. Now, for those of you familiar with the way the Kingdom Come Flash and Turtle works, when Turtle is being carried, he doesn't exist on the board and therefore won't affect the Kingdom Come Flash, which makes him amazing with his 17 movement hypersonic. So we flash now to the idea of the pact. The pact happens to your opponent, like you enact a pact on your opponent. Now, because of the errata, if the person who's got the pact on them is the last character on the board, they are they're still pacted, right? They can't attack anybody. There is a way to actually get the pact off of you without having to resort to losing a character. And that is, you can actually carry, if you can get all the other characters on your team carried by the guy who has the pact on them. Because what will happen is you remove all the other characters from the map while you carry, and all of a sudden, the last character remaining is the character who's been pacted.
The same as that ruling for the turtle effect, right?
Exactly, right? So one of the things I was thinking of is how that would affect a team like, say, the Zombie Super Skrull with Engineer and Despero. And I immediately came to the conclusion that I give Engineer Earthbound, and now I carry both Despero and Engineer, and the pact is broken on turn 1.
But wouldn't the pact be on your Super Scroll?
It is on my Super Skrull, but when I pick up Engineer and Despero, the last remaining character on the
because
map.
it's just those 3. Yeah. I was thinking future teams and Gates, but I like yours better.
Yeah, well, the thing is Gates would have to be the highest playing character on your team for that to actually happen that way.
Yeah.
The way that the pact is worded.
Well,
So
the way that the pack is worded, if I pulled the character off of the map, would the pack still apply?
as far as I understand, like it's this weird. It might actually.
That's weird because if I can if I can pull all of my characters off the map and say I'm the only person, so screw your pack, shouldn't picking up the character who has the pack on him ruin the pact as well?
I think it's because I don't
Like
understand.
the same thing happens, doesn't it?
Again, this is one of those things that didn't get asked in the question. So
Am I having a nosebleed right now?
yeah, exactly. The steam that's coming out of my ears. You asked a question that didn't get asked in the thread. I can't help you with this.
I'm sorry, guys.
I just had the answer. I didn't have the question.
Yeah, I don't know. That brings a really interesting question.
Yeah. So now is it just leaving the last guy on the board while carrying everybody else, or is it how is this gonna? All of a sudden, the pact even became less imposing on on certain teams. Now that still doesn't stop that stupid turtle pact hope team from slowing you down and getting there. You're punishing yourself to get there. But it's a tool you can use to add to your offensive capabilities against that team.
I would like to point out Banshee, Weasel, and a Bat Cycle is perfect range to hit a motherfucker who wants to sit in their starting area. So let them.
Yeah.
Let them.
Absolutely.
Bat Cycle is not going to be very useful for very long.
Hey, you know what though? As far as
our ROCs go.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we have a couple of events local that we're all really excited about. Are you guys planning on going to all one or most of the feeder tournaments for the Windsor ROC?
2.
Going to 2?
Yeah. Going to yours, and I can't remember the other one, but not the Hamilton one.
Okay. Jordan?
I'm sorry, the question again.
The ROC feeder tournaments local, are you heading to them?
I would like to, if not just to see how our local meta wants to play their meanest.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to, sir. Like, you owe it to the rest of us to go.
Why do I owe it?
Yeah, because you have not gone.
I've played this game longer.
It's time to come and play.
I've played this game like 10 years longer than you have.
Stuff and the peoples.
I'm so confused. Why do I have to?
Because I want to beat you.
I think like the first time we played together, Mike, we ended up like.
I actually beat you the first time I played with you.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't care. It was fun.
Wait, what?
What?
We didn't care about what? I beat you?
Yeah. No, you didn't beat me. I beat you.
Okay. I apparently have triggered.
No, we played in the sealed.
Yeah, we played in the sealed. It was
Wizard's Cash. I didn't lose a game.
Oh, I thought you lost to me.
No, I won.
Oh, whatever. That was like my. Oh, I don't know. I think that was my second World Light game.
Yeah, I had Cheetah Prime. Or no, you played Slosh. Wasn't it Slosh? Slosh sealed?
No, it was World Light sealed.
Oh, then if it was at Wizard's Cash, I lost every game because I rolled like crit misses every game.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, Wizard's Cash. I think that may have been.
That's where we met. That's where you and I met the first time. Okay, don't you remember our anniversary?
No, I don't.
All right.
Sorry, baby.
Over.
I'm exhausted, guys. Sorry if I'm rambling on a little bit.
It's all right. So have you guys come up with any neat tech? You're allowed to not tell me. Just say yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. Anything you guys haven't told me about that you're hiding from me, or?
I guess I can share a couple things I've created that I'm not 100%, that I know I'm not going to use anymore. Give me a second. I was really thinking that this was still potentially viable, but that whole carrying around thing really neuters it for about 50% of teams easily. But Highfather, Proxima, Midnight, Bill, Weasel, and Blind Owl.
It makes sense, believe me.
And one of the teams that I had built that I found actually really good was Con Question, Banshee, Despotellus, Weasel, and Bat Cycle, and that was part of what I explained before. It's got my whole carry. I've got multiple characters. It takes on different things at different times. My Bat Cycle carries Question and Despotellus some games. Throws out the Smoke Cloud. They're all sitting in that Smoke Cloud hiding. I can do it turn 2. I can stop the team that decides that it's going to do dual Tachyon because I can shoot Hope Summers or Moira depending on the point in the game with one-shot kills with Banshee. So you pull him out. You've got a bunch of different options for some of the big meta teams. Super Scroll, I pull out Question and the Despotellus usually because the Super Scroll is going to want to brawl, and you tag him with the Despotellus, and things start to get really nasty in his favor.
Okay. So you've been working. That's good. Mike, anything you've been working on? Any new ideas, new tech, or?
Not really. I'm just getting back to it. I took a little bit of time off and just played a lot of Destiny for a while there. No, I do have some very good ideas. You guys have inspired some more this evening, actually, that I'll work on, and I'll probably share some more with everybody next week.
Excellent. Okay. In the meantime, guys, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Michael, Jordan, thanks for joining me on the show this week. Hope to see you guys next week, probably with more previews, and probably be able to talk about the Gravity Feed, which looks a little less than stellar, but might turn out to be a little better, but I have my doubts. In the meantime, guys, don't forget to check out Cartamagica on Twitch TV. So that's twitch.tv/Cartamagica TV. They do occasionally live stream their tournaments, or Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, or Heroclix tournaments, their Magic tournaments. As well, they also archive them on YouTube, so it's youtube.com/Cartamagica TV to check out their archive there. Of course, if you're watching this live, thank you for joining us. If you're watching us on the archive, thank you as well for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and throw your comments below if you want to hear if there's any particular topics you want to hear about next week. Don't forget, guys, practice makes your team better.